These kinds of films are troubling to people, and for us it had to do with the fact very often that people were looking to understand where are you coming from? What's your point of view? What are you trying to say? Are you on a side or aren't you on a side?
Right.
And I think that's the intention that we're trying to defy constantly.
Yes. Welcome to another CG garage where the monstrous moon shines. We're building new Hollywood like in 1971's prime. From authors' bold dreams to AI's fever dream, where tech meets the silver or LED screen. Pixels and passion are pipelines unknown to host one show on a deadline postponed.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the CG Garage. This is episode number 531, featuring Michael Moshe Dahan, who is a film director, has an incredible background, and he created a film called Yes, Repeat, No. It is a very challenging film. This is not a podcast about visual effects. It is a podcast about independent filmmaking and creating something very unusual and a very interesting subject. I'm not going to give too much away. I would encourage you guys to go look at the trailer at the very least of Yes, Repeat, No. If not, watch the whole film. I'd definitely recommend this film. Daniel and I loved it. Fascinating, very experimental, and really, really great. It is available on video on demand from Apple or Amazon or all those other places. So definitely go check it out. Really great stuff. And we talk a lot about filmmaking too. So that's something that we're going to get into. Okay, in terms of the podcast, you guys know where to follow us. We're at cggarage.com. Of course, you can always check us out on YouTube. We're now putting our YouTubes up, which is exciting. Our YouTube is youtube.com/@CGGaragePodcast, @CGGaragePodcast. If you'd like to continue this discussion and find out more about it, you can always go to our Discord. We'd love to have you there. cggarage.com/Discord will redirect you to join the Discord. Super excited to do that. If you have ideas, including things like this one, which was great, you can always email us, podcast@cggarage.com, podcast@cggarage.com. But for now, please enjoy episode number 531 with Michael Moshe Dahan.
This episode of CG Garage is sponsored by CenterGrid Virtual Studio. Wondering why you went to film school just to be stuck managing hardware lifecycles? CenterGrid delivers end-to-end GPU-accelerated cloud workstations built specifically for VFX and creative production, with flat, predictable pricing and personalized support from people who actually get your workflow. Plus, CenterGrid is TPN Gold Shield certified, so your studio's security is locked down. Check out what Virtual Studio can do for your pipeline at cgvirtualstudio.com. This episode of CG Garage is sponsored by Kitbash 3D, one of our favorite tools and an essential tool for 3D artists everywhere. With the largest library of cinematic quality, production-ready 3D assets, Kitbash 3D ensures that your studio has the tools to build stunning environments quickly, efficiently, and at scale. Design detailed worlds in a fraction of the time without compromising on quality. Head to kitbash3d.com and use the code CGGarage at checkout for 10% off any kit. Again, that's kitbash3d.com, code CGGarage.
All right, Michael. So thank you so much for doing this. I was very curious about this. Very, very curious. As I don't know if you've heard any of our podcasts, but they tend to be very weird and technical and about computer graphics and different things of that nature. But we're huge cinephiles, and everyone knows that as well. Okay, and so we have a lot to discuss here, which I'm also very excited about. And it was just a fascinating to be to have this conversation. So. Before we even get started on this, let's just get a little quick background on yourself. Like how did you get into filmmaking? Why did you choose this medium? What got you to this journey here?
I have an interesting journey. It's not a conventional one. I started when I got out of college, I was actually directing a lot of theater. I mean, not surprising for this film, but I came out to Los Angeles right after graduating, with a degree in English, and worked in the film business for almost a decade, as an assistant in development, and then a development executive for, a good 7 or 8 years. I worked for producers who were making things at studios, large, big budget stuff. Like I was working for Mark Gordon for a long time with Gary Levinson while they were making Saving Private Ryan and The Patriot, which is a film I got an associate producer's credit on.
Nice.
But it was all development, story related. I went back to school after the first kind of .com bubble, which was, I know Mark Gordon and I had a kind of .com play, but in the time that we were trying to put everything together, Pop.com, which was Steven Spielberg's play, they spent something like $60 million in a few months. And then everybody was like, oh, it's not ready yet, Went back to school, studied photography and fine art, then worked as a professional photographer for and a photo retoucher for, probably another decade, shooting mostly celebrity portraits, music, packaging, and then went back to graduate school. So kind of, work and then school and work and then school. And then in graduate school, I got an MFA in art. I was making a lot of experimental video, experimental film, some installation, sculpture, but was really beginning to get interested in critical theory and history, and rolled my master's into a PhD program where I was studying working a lot on the Middle Eastern history and kind of cinema and art that comes out of generational trauma. I'm from, I'm Israeli, moved to the States when I was 8. So that was very personal to me. And I spent, almost 8 or 9 years working on a PhD that I eventually abandoned right around COVID or during COVID to make this film. Right. So this film is in a way kind of, a dissertation on the stuff that was most interesting to me for those 10 years, but also brought together all of these different things that I had done, whether it was, historically based filmmaking or experimental cinema or, theater. It all kind of came together in this, and also an interest in critical theory. So it all came together in this film, which ended up being kind of the culmination of all of these different, lines of inquiry that I had and disciplines that I had pursued, for almost 25 years.
So for people that are listening, the movie is yes, repeat, no. And I'll just be flat out. Like, I loved this. I loved it. Like, I was knocked out.
Thank you.
By it. And the film is it makes you very aware that you're watching a movie while you're watching it. And then lets you lose yourself in the movie, and you forget you're watching a movie and sort of pulls you in and out of that experience. But it refers to itself within the movie sort of as a conceptual film, like the director keeps on saying it's a conceptual film.
Right.
And
it's like watching a movie and the behind the scenes at the same time.
It's a documentary about a movie with it. So,
which was what we were making both at the same time, obviously.
Right. And so, like, for the listeners, like, let's see if I can say this all in one go. It is a movie that you are in, shown directing the movie and directing 3 actors who are playing 3 actors who are playing aspects of a single actor, that in a sequence from a movie based on a novel by a man who had an alternate identity himself.
Right.
Based on a real thing that happened and framed as a fictional film within a documentary.
Also should be noted that the story is about a character who plays a secondary character in the movie of the scene that they're doing.
Exactly.
Right.
So this very much has like sort of a Synecdoche, New York level of
oh my God.
Of
you gave me the biggest compliment I could ever receive. That's a film that I show, and it's one of those films, Synecdoche, New York, that is so good, so good that you're jealous.
No, it's incredible. Yeah, it's
Right.
an incredible.
But I like your description, and in fact, I'd like to transcribe your description.
Well, I think that it's interesting because like that may sound really daunting to people that listen. You know, it's just like it
is complicated to watch. I'm not.
It's a very
heavy meal.
It's a heavy meal, but it isn't like I didn't. I'm sorry to give you a mini review right off the top, but just to sort of frame it for people is like what's great about the movie is that it doesn't hit you with that all at once. It sort of doubles itself and doubles itself and doubles itself. So like it doesn't come at you like some more experimental film it'll just hit you like a wall, and it'll drive some people away when they just want to sit and watch a movie.
Absolutely.
And this actually has a pretty easy to enter foyer, I guess. And so like you get to spend time with each of the actors up front and sort of, you're watching a movie to start with. And then by the end, I was like, I can't believe how many mirrors are in this funhouse now. This is just insane. And it's really beautifully structured, and how well that is paced out so it never knocked me out of the experience. But it really started, it started to freak me out by the end. Like I was really caught up in it.
Yeah.
In a very unexpected way. I was really thrilled.
I'm glad you appreciate that level, those levels in it, because the kind of push and pull between are you in it or are you standing outside of it was definitely something I thought about initially, and trying to figure that out, in your head versus figure it out in the filmmaking process versus in the editing process is really
well, and that's also
delicate.
kind of what you're coming at in terms of the topic as well. It's like you're both inside it and outside of it simultaneously in discussing
Absolutely.
this.
And also how, the topic itself, which of course is this perennial conflict in the Middle East, is one of those topics that, it's very easy to hit people over the head with it. And so just figuring out how do I sneak into this conversation without announcing this in a didactic way that makes people feel like they're going to be preached at, which you never want to do. So just how do you get into it is, making it palatable.
But I don't know. Sorry. I should give you some context. I was born in 1971 in Cairo as an American. Okay.
Right.
My dad was the American University of the business manager for the American University in Cairo. Right.
Oh, wow.
And so we had a lot of people who knew in Cairo. We were there during the Egyptian-Israeli war. Right. I was a small child during that time.
Of course.
And we were, we then moved to Athens, right? After that. And then while we were in Athens, we had I went to a French school because my parents put me in a French school that was better than the American schools at the time. In that French school in Athens, and you got to think in the late 70s, early 80s, tons of Lebanese kids.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they all came out, because they're all speaking French, right? And you did the thing that I kind of love the most at right a minute is like the immediate stereotype of the Arab. You're Arabic. It's like, I'm Palestinian. And you're like the fact that people don't know the difference.
Right. Right.
Some people look at an Iranian and goes, oh, he's Arabic. He's like, he's Persian. It's completely
and you can imagine what it must have been like, the films about Juliano Mer-Khamis, who himself was an actor to begin with, right? So being an actor in the 80s in the Middle East and in the United States eventually,
right.
There are only a certain number of roles that are even available to you.
Yeah.
And most of them are terrorists, jihadis.
Right.
I love that the director points out he had, 36 seconds or whatever it says, 2 minutes in this episode and such and so on. Like there's only this much exposure, and in there's no way, even if you were given a really rich and detailed character to play, 4 minutes is not enough to understand someone ever.
Yeah, and I watched his films very, very carefully, and did all the kind of timing of that. And a lot of the dialogue that you hear in the first act of the film when they're auditioning to play these parts, right, are taken from the dialogue that he has in these films, because there's just not that much, except for the stuff where he's playing an IDF soldier for, Amos Gattai or any of the Israelis, which are much more rich.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's fascinating that because like the primary text that you're drawing from is Le Carré's Little Drummer Girl,
Yeah.
and the film version of it,
Yeah.
in the 80s, and like it's like I thought it's particularly great because the easy way to do it would have been to pick something that was, take it from, whatever, Rambo 3 or whatever
Right.
it is, that kind of stuff. But it's not like Le Carré is a real smart writer. Like,
Right.
and these scenes are actually layered and very dense.
Yeah.
And it still brings up the question of like, how are these characters really being represented, and who is this, like the like, how much am I reducing these people in my mind, even in something that I think of as really smart?
Right.
You know? And and being able to go through the scene over and over again from multiple points of view with the same set of actors,
but they switch roles.
It's
Each one
really,
of them playing Dan Keaton's role in different ways.
Really
Yeah.
wonderful. Really wonderful idea.
I will tell you that when we cast the film, I cast the 3 actors, and I did not know which actor would play which part.
Oh, interesting.
And we did a day-long table read where we read the script 3 times, and I had them each play each part for an entire run through.
Right.
I did film that because there's a part of me that thinks, there's something like 250 hours of footage for the process of the making of this film. So there's like 6 other films in here somewhere. But I don't know if I'll ever decide that I have the energy to do that. But but the casting of it was kind of interesting too, because I didn't want to lock it down until we understood what, how does this sound? Who sounds the best? Who's doing, who's bringing comedy to certain parts? And so the part that was also part of the process of the making of the film. It wasn't, and so it inspired both the film itself, but also the casting of it.
Right. No. The inception of this, like this, like you brought up earlier, this is very play-like, and in a very interesting way to me, because it's easy to make boring play movies, but this is like a really active, participatory. Like the camera is really involved in. The fact that you're on stage with everybody else.
Right.
It's a theater and around almost.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah,
I mean, it was, 4 cameras, 3 cameras on dolly tracks, shooting pretty much 6 to 7 hours a day continuously.
How many days of shooting was this thing?
10 days, 2 5-day weeks, 8-hour days, 2 hours in the chair and getting, hair, makeup and styling, and then 6 hours on stage. And no real budget for overtime, as you can imagine.
Sure.
The cameras are staggered, so we never run out of, a card doesn't run out at the same time. So we're always covering. And then there's a 4th camera. There's also a 4th camera at times. And then there's a kind of BTS crew shooting a 5th camera in color.
Right.
And when I would cut with the actors, I told the camera crew in the beginning, I said, listen, when we cut, there's no cutting. You guys just keep shooting, because we're going to stop to discuss the script. And so much of this is about the understanding of the material and trying to find the material. The actors were all instructed to not come in off book. I didn't want them off book. I wanted them working through the accent, or is it this one? Is it, how does it, how does he walk? How does it sound? I wanted that happening in real time. And so the first week was designated as rehearsal, and the second week was designated as performance. But at some point it just, the lines got blurred, and it was like, I guess we're performing the rehearsal right now.
Which is, and that blur is what you're capturing in the movie.
It's really kind of intriguing, because like, obviously, like they're reading the line, they're doing the act, and then they break character, but they're not really breaking character.
Right.
There's so many layers of character, but you could see all of a sudden it turns color, because it's mostly black and white. It turns color, and then you start like, okay, now this might be the actual actor, but maybe not.
That stuff again wasn't scripted, but then it became me directing them. And you have to, again, my the actor who played the Israeli Giuliano, Karim Saleh, is Lebanese.
Right.
He's a Lebanese national. The public Giuliano, who's a kind of mediation of a couple characters, is played by an Israeli actor. And the Palestinian or Arab Giuliano, as he's kind of reduced into this kind of stereotype, is played by a Palestinian, right? So and the director, Yael, the director, is played by
was he a Christian Palestinian?
She was played by she was British Iranian.
British
right? That was
right.
Salome Azizi, right? So Musa Kraish, who's the Palestinian, plays the Arab, and again, that was something that we determined in the rehearsal because he brought some lightness and humor to it that nobody else could have brought. Like no one else has a right to be cracking jokes about what it means to be a Palestinian,
right?
Than a Palestinian, right? So it was really and I'll tell you that we had a different actor playing the director through the week of rehearsal, meaning the read-throughs and stuff, and that was an Israeli actor who decided to quit the day before principal photography because she asked us like to change stuff in the script and said, listen, I have a career in Israel and I'm concerned, and I rightfully so, by the way, considering where we are today.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, look, we're not going to change it. I'm sorry. This was always the deal. So you'll have to leave. And then, Salome and I sat down the night before we started production and I said, listen, it was you or her and I couldn't make the decision, but now the decision has been made. Are you ready to do it? And she
it is the way it is.
Well,
it's a good sign. It's a sign that you're on the right track when people are afraid. They're like, I believe in this movie, but I'm afraid to do it. That's good art.
Yeah.
I mean,
it definitely, it made us, more resolved, I think.
Yeah.
And you also obviously do a lot of spectrum, right? It's like black or white, and then there's always someone and then you literally put someone in a white suit and a black suit and someone in a gray suit. And you realize
and then they switch.
Yeah, and then they switch around.
Exactly. Exactly.
And initially, I remember thinking, we have to get 3 lookalikes. That was the kind of mandate in the casting. And eventually we just, agreed on the 3 best actors, but there was something about them that I wanted. It was very deliberate for there to be some confusion about which one am I looking at, right? You've got the Lebanese gentleman playing the Israeli and doing it brilliantly.
I can tell. I want to tell you that there was a moment in the movie towards the end that it's my favorite experience in watching a movie is when I'm not just moved by it, or I'm hit emotionally by it, but when I don't even expect to be. It just sort of comes out of the blue and hits me sideways in a weird way.
Yeah.
It's when he's looking in the mirror and says, "Goodbye, Giuliano."
Yeah.
Like
brilliant.
I literally gasped a little bit. I was so suddenly affected by it. And I'm still not even sure what my emotion was.
Yeah.
It just got me.
I had that moment.
I remember,
I had that moment when he looked at the camera and says, I think I have to do this without the accent.
Because
right.
Just,
right.
I
mean, because he's saying that to me. It's Kareem speaking to Michael.
Right.
Yeah.
Saying, saying like, we're talking about like, do you think he has the accent now or doesn't he have the accent now? And he says, I think he doesn't have the accent. And so this is the thing with the kind of the process of this film is there are times where, the Goodbye Giuliano, that took us all by surprise. That's just Kareem being, brilliant.
Yeah. There was something, because I feel like there is something like, I have, how can I say it? Like, it would be dumb of me to try to talk knowledgibly about anything that this movie is actually covering. Like, I know nothing about the politics at all, but I can tell you that I felt great emotional crossover with the stresses that are being discussed. And because I feel this kind of identity stress, even within just Americans in general right now.
Oh, this is such a great metaphor for how everything is going on. Yeah.
And even at the time when we were making it, that's why I think we were also interested in it is it felt relevant on that level. And, we're all people, everybody in the film has some biographical investment in this area. And that's why they were cast in addition to their talent is that when we cut and we're talking, we're speaking from a really authentic place. I mean, Musa and Kareem knew each other because they had met working on Spielberg's Munich.
Oh, wow.
As members of Black September.
Right. Sure.
Right. And they kind of had vowed after that they would never play terrorists again because of course they didn't want to be typecast. So they had a level of intimacy and familiarity with each other where there were times that I didn't. And me and Sarah Salovitz and Braxton Pope, the producers, we would look at each other like, are they actually fighting right now? I don't know if we should really cut because like something is uncomfortable.
Right.
And I think they just knew how to push each other. But there were times where we didn't, it was the stuff with Kareem saying, I don't know. I don't think he has the accent. That was just him working it out on camera. Right.
Yeah.
So there's real stuff like we didn't know at some point. Like, is this, are we in it or are we out of it?
Sure.
And,
well, I'm sure you know the film. What's it? Haskell Wexler's 1970s movie with Robert. What's the name of the thing? We talk about this all the time, Chris. What is it? It's a Medium Cool. Have you seen Medium Cool?
I haven't.
Like, I would really recommend it. There are so few films that attempt what you've pulled off here, and one of them is Medium Cool, which was essentially shot like the Democratic National Convention riots happening. It was 1968 or whatever it was, and Haskell Wexler, director of photography, wants to make this movie, and he's like, "Oh, these riots are going on. I'm going to call up all my actor buddies, and we're just going to go down to the riots as they're happening, and play characters and film within this actual context."
Awesome.
And it's like it's mind blowing. It's just mind blowing. But I think that there's with what you've got here, because with that movie, it's beautiful. It's a brilliant and beautiful movie. But it doesn't get to spend so much time with the characters that you come to understand them. You're more outside of the characters in that movie.
Right.
This the intent here is not just to have everyone sort of say their point of view, right? It's rather to they say their point of view, and then there's still more to say, and there's still more to say, and then more of that crosses over with everybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's the common ground, just the emotional common ground that they keep on crossing over together that adds up to the emotions I had at the end of the film. And I think that this is what it was so exciting to me about this is that it's something that I'm personally am very much hoping for what is happening in America right now, like that having some sort of actual conversation and understanding one another again, but also to hear at the top of this conversation that you had a journey from working in big time Hollywood super stuff to this is stunning to me, that it can go from like, here's the most here's
the Patriot,
here's the Patriot, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, big historical epic, those are such broad strokes, right?
Yeah,
and enjoyable,
exactly.
but
and you end up here like having and I have nothing wrong. I have nothing bad to say about The Patriot or Saving Private Ryan or any of that stuff. Like that's also good fun movies. Yeah. That's great stuff. But this kind of movie is the truly rare one, and it seems more rare now than ever. And
impossible to get people to see.
Yes.
To show people, which is kind of sad and true. I've spent a bunch of time judging for film festivals, and you see these brilliant films and they'll never see the light of day. They're incredible. So it's not,
I do think people are hungry for new. And I think that there's this. This is a time. You might be a little early, but maybe at least by next year, I'm sure people are going to want to see interesting things like this.
How have you gone about getting this out there, and what was the?
It's been hard. I will tell you, it's getting people to see the film is actually quite difficult once they see it. They really connect with it. The process of going to festivals, let's say, which we did, our kind of festival journey in 2023. into 24, we went to about a dozen festivals, but we submitted to so many. I mean, I'd say over 100, maybe more, to get to those dozen festivals. But when we got to festivals, we would win prizes almost every time.
Sure.
So it was like people connected with it, but getting them to see it, getting a screener who works for a festival on the first level, because we're going in cold to most of these, to watch the film and recommend it, I think is a tough ask, right? Because it's not an easy film to sit through, and you're kind of sitting there for the first 30 minutes going, what's happening here? These guys are auditioning.
Right.
So that part of it, I'm pleased that it got to so many, smaller festivals and people connected with it. Finding distribution was really, really difficult. We're so happy that Freestyle took us on because, No Other Land, which was won an Academy Award, probably, has had a more difficult time getting distribution if they have at all. I don't even know if they ever did. Right. So I think these kinds of films are troubling to people. And for us, it had to do with the fact very often that people were looking to understand where are you coming from? What's your point of view? What are you trying to say? Are you on a side or aren't you on a side? Correct. Like, which one is it?
Right.
And I think that's the intention that we're trying to defy constantly. Yes. I had, anecdotally, I had a musician during a scoring session who was Israeli, working with my sound designer, stop the session because he had to talk to me because he needed to know. Is this going to be at a Free Palestine rally? Like, where are you coming from? What side are you on? And I said, listen, if that's what you're looking for, you're not going to get it. Yeah. You should just leave. I'm sorry that, I can't give you the answer that you want. But if somebody wants to show it at a Free Palestine rally,
are you a Zionist or not a Zionist?
Exactly. And if they want to show it,
colors. Yeah.
Well, if they want to show it in a, with a collection of very pro-Israel people, I would like to show it there too and have a conversation. And I'm not going to say no to anything. And if that's a problem, then you have to move on. Right. So that was constantly a thing. We got equally rejected by Israeli film festivals and Arab film festivals.
Right.
So in a way, I almost take that as a point of pride. Like we're in the middle, punching out at all sides. Yeah. We're really this is a critique of extremism more than anything else, right? Extremist thought. It's not a decision to take one side or another. And in saying that, my producer Sarah reminds me of this all the time, as a really fantastic collaborator. Just the fact that we have the privilege of working, across sides is in itself a side. Like that privilege is a side because no Palestinian could do that without potentially risking their life if that was the situation. And I think that's also what Giuliano, the subject of the film, faced. He did risk his life in
doing that, right?
Yeah, he did. I mean, the Freedom Theater was something that, he promoted to as a kind of cultural intifada to teach people how to deal with the trauma of what's happening in a way that's nonviolent, but was always suspected by Palestinians of being, an Israeli collaborator or by Israelis, or, a spy for the Israelis, or a collaborator with the Palestinians by the Israelis. So there was plenty of suspicion towards him to go around, just as there's, plenty of extremism to go around here in the States, in Israel, and, in Muslim countries. I think that's the part that I think is problematic, is that we're so attached.
Because when you're afraid, right, it makes you less afraid to feel like you're on a team, right? It gives you strength.
We wear it. It's comforting. It's a cloak.
And even though that can actually make things more dangerous for you when you hardcore stick to only one side, it makes you feel more empowered in the moment, no matter what. And people tend to double down on that, because I feel like when you bring up it's hard to get people to see this, because I think that it's not so much from the viewer end. I'm not about this movie, but I've certainly felt about other difficult movies about any kind of topic. I don't know if I want to take that on today. I'm already stressed out enough.
But people are doing it, and you're doing it. I mean, and Civil War did it as well, right? Civil War did an amazing job of
Yeah,
here's how bad it is without even picking
right.
any sides. Here's how bad it is, right? And sort of
I mean, most people who do the side picking, I don't think they don't appreciate the nuance of the lived experience and the complexity and the contradiction. I mean, I can be horrified by, the taking of hostages and, October 7th and all of that stuff, and think that is absolutely non-negotiable, something that should never happen. And I can also believe that it's terrible to see Palestinians displaced and killed. And I can also believe that Hamas doesn't serve the Palestinian people. I can believe all of these things when they are contradictory. That's actually what life is about. Right. That's actually what the experience of living is. I have a very emotional connection to Israel. I was born there. It's my, it's the place that I call home. And that is an undeniable connection that I can never disavow. But I am also really troubled as an outsider who's not been living there. So these things happen, they exist simultaneously.
Right.
And I think that's even in, let's take politics out of it, even in film watching, people really, in the Hollywood system, it's like you got quadrants and we need to know, is this a happy movie, a sad movie, or do they end up together? And so we're always trying to be told what the outcome is, whether it's the kind of John Williams score that tells you how to feel at every moment, whatever that is. And I think that also troubles people is when you don't tell them,
it feels unsafe. It feels weird.
But we've told this story many times, and it's really funny. But my son watched The Godfather with us,
and the best story.
And he's like he was so curious to see it because my son loves comedy, so he's seen all of these riffs of The Godfather, right, and all of these people imitating it, and he saw it on Seinfeld, and he was just like, "All right, we're gonna watch The Godfather." He finally watched The Godfather, and he gets to the final scene, which has been parodied a million times, where the door closes on Michael Corleone, right? And he's like, "What? Michael is bad?" And he just could not.
So angry.
He was so angry. He was so
you can't
angry.
Have the main character be bad.
What do you mean? And it's like, that's the story, right? The stories that you can go bad. And then it's like, there's no redemption. There's no, this is how life happens. And
and he told it was great because he told us this on the podcast. And I was like, well, there's Godfather 2. And he's like, does Michael get better? And he's like, no. He gets way worse. He's like, why even watch that?
That's actually the life that that's the way I experience life out here. I don't know about in the film world, but it seems to to me, that's a more honest experience and portrayal of things. Those are the things I want to make. Those are the movies I'm jealous of.
But you actually make that commentary right at the beginning, right? Like when because essentially the beginning of the movie is the director auditioning these three actors to play different roles and tells them what their roles are. And it's like, it's not a role, it's a type. And that's actually kind of interesting in itself, right? But then she has the Arab guys, like he literally, all dressed up like an Arab, but he's like, and he's like, give me your accent. No, a little harder. It's like, you mean like a pirate?
Right.
Like a pirate.
It's just a cliche.
It's such a cliche. It's like, wait, what?
That was a great line. That was a good moment. Musa came up with that. It was awesome.
That's terrific.
That's what I'm saying is he's got that sense of humor. And he can bring it to that. And it needed levity. I mean, the original script as written, it was what it was kind of conceptually, and I'm writing it as almost as an artist, kind of writing about the process of writing a film.
Right.
That's very self-referential. So it needed something that would take out the kind of heaviness of that intellectual rigor.
Right.
And he brought it, and it really helped.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to do it because when you add just a little bit of comedy, it sort of disarms people a little bit, and then they can. Then they open themselves up to hearing more stuff, essentially.
Yeah.
Like it's a good way to sort of get people to
relax.
But I also like the fact, I'm just thinking, I'm sorry to say, Americans don't necessarily understand the subtleties of ethnicity in that region, which is
for sure.
And so when they says things like, well, you're an Arab, is like, well, Palestinian is like, same thing. And it's like, tomato, tomato, and it's like, and then I think people will start to realize, like, wait a minute, do I have this wrong? I mean, do I need to learn more? And that incentivizes people to learn more, right? And that incentivizes people to do more.
Well, and I think it's like the whole journey of the movie is such a great exploration of the fluidity of identity just within yourself in any given context. Like, who am I right now?
Of course, every moment it changes.
Yeah,
I mean, who you are as a parent is very different than who you are as a professional. You know, like there are times when I have to perform being angry at my children so they will clean their rooms. I have to walk out before I laugh because I'm so aware of how performative
I put it on a shtick right now. I got to tell you, this is not real.
But it works with the 5-year-olds, right? So it's like I need to So I think that's the part of kind of identity construction that we're all negotiating all of the time, and that's not to invalidate people's histories and ethnic affiliations. It's just to say that we harden them in a way that I don't believe they are hardened or necessary, you know. And I think the whatever an Israeli is supposed to mean and how you perform that versus the things that you do to perform being non-Israeli or being Palestinian or being Arab, you know, the way that we reduce things into the kind of you people of whatever version of you people we want to say.
There's an incredible line in there that I want to teach our children about the history of the future, not the history of the past. Like really, really stuck with me because like the idea, and just like it got me chewing on this idea of just like when I remember even just my own history, I simplify and broad strokes that to myself.
Of course.
Like my own history isn't really me. Like
it's a construction. It's a narrative.
It's a construction. It's a narrative. Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, memory works the same way. I mean, I have a memory of myself, you know, throwing a tantrum in a rocking chair when I was, 4 years old in Jerusalem where my parents lived. But I don't know if that's my memory or if it's my memory of a photograph that I've seen in an album 100 times, right? I can't tell. It's like, Freud used to call that screen memories. It's like, is it the thing itself or is it the projection of the thing that you've codified by telling it again and again? And even the way that he talks about dreams, when you tell a dream, you're kind of inventing it.
Yeah, you're kind of watching a movie.
Yeah, you're watching a movie, and is that really how it happened? Because it's kind of evaporating as I tell the story, but I'm trying to nail it down by almost am I inventing details? Like it's very hard to tell, and I think that's where this notion of identity becomes problematic. One of that line that you're quoting, which is I want to teach them about the history of the future, not the history of the past. That's something that, Shimon Peres said, when he's talking about trying to understand how do you deal with trauma? How do you deal with trauma in a way that allows you to move forward without denying or repressing or erasing it? So that people feel
the pain
unheard.
is real. I mean, you have to admit that that's true.
You can't survive in an always already traumatic world that continues to create trauma without just letting it go for the sake of survival, without resolving it, right? Because there's so many traumatic things that happen constantly, and we talk about the Holocaust, we talk about many different versions of that, and they are both unrepresentably singular in how horrifying they are, and yet occur again and again and again and again. Yep. And so, we become desensitized to them. So the question is, how do you move on? Sometimes you move on just by choosing to move on. Right. And so that it requires this kind of fluidity and ease. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that feels like denial and erasure and repression. And again, sometimes it's not right, trying to deny the history of slavery in America. That doesn't work, really. That's not going to get us.
The pain is real. These things are real, but also we can't live in the state we're currently in forever. Like this is not.
And you have to move on. So I think that's a contradiction, right? And one of the ways that we try to deal with this, Sarah Salovitz, the producer of this film, invented this kind of idea that we should surround the actors with these quotations from all of these really important political figures of the time. And you actually see them in the film. They're on these massive V-flats that we have everywhere. You know, Arafat, Mahmoud Abbas, you know, Ariel Sharon, Shimon Peres, everybody we could find, Netanyahu. And we said to the actors, listen, just you just put them in the script. Don't tell us. Just put them in. Put them in wherever.
Right.
And if it works on a kind of poetic way, let's use it. And what ended up happening because of that as a result is that you have characters speaking lines from people who you wouldn't believe were on their side or weren't on their side. And then very often you've got people like, you know, Netanyahu saying something 10 years ago that completely contradicts something he might have said 2 years ago, right? Or 3 years ago. So even within a single human being, these people are changing. They're, you know, they're evolving. And so there's nothing that's static in this film. And I think how you create that without losing people was really the kind of logistical challenge of, you know, how do you hold it together before it just falls apart too much, right? And not hold it together so much that it becomes, oh, this movie is about this, right? This is the point of view it's taking.
Well, I think it's a phenomenally accessible piece of work for the density that you're attempting, and I think that it's because it's so accessible. It's not just dense by the end; it's deeply effective. You know, I like affective. Like I was just like, oh my god, it really got in there. Instead of remaining like, because like it's easy in one way to be like, and a lot of experimental film falls into this. Is like it remains intellectual. You know, and like you can talk into like you can just talk and talk and talk, and it's endlessly fascinating to get smarter and smarter and more refined about stuff. Right. But you can lose the thread about what the feeling is, and this because it's because you keep inviting the audience in with these guys and into the actual physical space. Because I like how you divided the space. Like there's the chamber that they're in for the audition, right? The director is on the outside, and even when she's like, "Could you just wait outside? Just step outside." Right. Like, and you can, you know, like he doesn't. I don't want to go outside, you know. And suddenly, like this thing that you're fighting to get out of, you're fighting to stay in because you don't know who you are outside of this context anymore. Yeah. You know, and that's produced not by being intellectual about it. That's produced by having an opinion because I am in the space.
Well, it's also, I mean, again, it was terrifying to me to think through, how do I talk about the Middle East? First of all, what right do I have? You know, how do I know that I know what I'm talking about? Right. And therefore, maybe I should talk about the fact that I'm confused about what I'm talking about. You know, let me lean into it honestly and negotiate through that. But really, it came down to, okay, well, 3 actors auditioning becomes it's a very accessible thing that people can just understand. It's a competition between actors, and the things that kind of seep through the cracks and the seams become these like eruptions of all of this other stuff. And to me, this is where intellectual or rigorous filmmaking has to go, because you know, you can't let things like theory and philosophy and criticism die on the vine in a kind of echo chamber of, you know, 100 intellectuals speaking to each other. That will just be the end of us. Yeah. And you can't also make only movies about, you know, the man who turns into a dog and it's a ha-ha funny broad comedy. So there's for me, that's why I'm kind of shuttling between academia and trying to make movies, is because I want to take those ideas, and this is what I try to impart on my students when I'm teaching them, at the university level, is like, these ideas will die unless you find a way to use them and make them accessible. And otherwise, the movies will get dumber and the intellectuals will get more isolated.
Yeah, because movies themselves are an emotional event. No matter how smart they are, they're emotional always. And it's like my favorite plays to movies, and this is not like surprising for anybody, is Glengarry Glen Ross. Right. And the reason why they also did a version of Mamet's other play, American Buffalo, right? And American Buffalo is still a good movie. A friend of ours shot it, and it's a good movie, but it doesn't have the snap that
Yeah.
Glengarry does.
Right.
And because Glengarry is directed by I can't think of his name. Well, a fellow who's mainly known for action films, not for
Right.
stage, right? And so he's present all the time as like, I'm making a movie.
Right.
Right. And so the camera is alive, and it's like it's paying attention to the emotional states and trying to
Right.
physicalize the emotional state for the audience all the time. That's why,
Right.
I mean, all the actors are wonderful in both of those movies, but the camera is there to port you into that.
Right.
And the idea, like all the most wonderful ideas in the world can get talked about in a film, but unless you are watching a movie, you're not going to truly understand them.
Right.
Mike.
Yeah. And it's a populist medium, right? It's supposed to hit you emotionally. When I think of I was, born in 72, so same kind of era. But when I think of what movies meant to me, it was like Spielberg,
Sure.
in a movie in the theater. And that was a purely emotional experience that had this kind of awe and wonderment to it. And I think it was the emotional part of it that I remember, right?
Can I ask you what your favorite movies are, just off the top here?
I mean, it's a really hard question, but obviously Synecdoche, New York is always at the top of that list.
That's a good one.
I would put Terrence Malick's Thin Red Line at the top, very close to that as well.
What is this war in the heart?
I mean, that line comes out of, we use that line because again, and Malick was making that film that came out the year that Saving Private Ryan came out. And I remember telling Mark Gordon as I just started working there, foolishly, you have the second best World War II movie this year, and he just looked at me like, "What are you talking about? What is Thin Red Line?" Right? Because Thin Red Line is not about like Germans bad, Americans good. It's like, what right do you have to wage war?
Right. Yeah. What
is
this? Why do we keep doing this?
Like,
what is happening for us? Yeah.
Who are you to even try to do this? And another film that I really, really love is a film called Suture, which is a black and white.
Suture's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And that really was an inspiration for me with this film because of what I remember about Suture is of course the question of identity and the way that it kind of unpacks things psychoanalytically. But I remember the sound of that film and the kind of dryness of the footsteps, and that's where I thought, okay, we have to have a turntable because I want them walking and I want to hear that.
The entire time I was going to bring this up, like the fact that you hear that grind all the time.
The grind and the click and the heels. And I'm like, no, she's got to have really sharp heels.
Yeah.
And the metronome, like this film started out as a conversation between me and the sound designer, me saying, I know there's a metronome, there's a beat, it's poetic, there's a sound to the walking, and I want to hear I want it to be like this syncopation throughout the film. So those to me are the films that I'm always aiming for. And the other inspiration for me always is Mike Leigh, and the way that he works with actors and kind of discovers the script by rehearsal. Because I think the messiness of what comes out of it is so authentic and it's so real.
You're never going to be able to just tell someone to do the things that happen in a Mike Leigh film.
But it's also devastating.
I got to tell you, so the thing that was having been someone who, grew up in the Middle East a little bit, just like yourself, and then coming to the United States, like the U.S. does not like gray areas. At all.
No, at all.
Right?
Well, yeah, because we like to be democracy good, America
democracy
number one.
good.
Exactly, right? And so these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, and we want to feel that way. And it's been like that for a very, very long time. So anyone who comes in and is like, yeah, I know Palestinian people, they automatically say terrorists, right? Which is not the thing. And ironically, I know a lot of Israelis and know a lot of Palestinian people because, it's very different. And so what I think today, there's more like suddenly a division on this particular subject as well, but people expect to be told how to feel, right? Yeah. They want to be told, this is how you feel. This is what, your ideology, which you somehow decided, this is the translation of how you need to feel on this subject. You don't do that in this film, and you don't even give people the satisfaction of giving them the answer at the end.
So right? That was very important.
Very, very important, to the point where it's just like, And now it's up to you to do your own research and figure this out on your own and understand this. Right.
I just want them to feel the devastation of not having that as a possible outcome.
Right.
You know, I think that those are that's what I've gotten out of these films that I've kind of referred to and named, because I'm just devastated and I've been taken on this kind of journey. You know, that doesn't mean I don't like, you know, I would also put Close Encounters of the Third Kind as one of my favorite films.
One of the great American films ever.
I mean, just like, to me, paradigmatic of like what that American, you know, moment in cinema was, and the way that it's written and constructed and how it kind of keeps you off balance. So I think I pull from all of these things because that's what inspired me to be interested in filmmaking. But I don't want the easy answers. I don't think that life feels like that to me. There are people who life feels like that to them, and I'm almost envious of them, because I think like, wow, I would love to have that point of view and believe it.
Right.
I just can't believe it. It's really hard.
Well, I think everybody wants, you know, like, you know, at the end of the day, we all sit down and watch Netflix and watch, you know, Love is Blind or some like, like there's a certain amount of, there's a certain amount of relaxation stuff that everybody wants. But when that's all that you eat, when you're only eating Doritos, it adds up.
Right. It does. And I think we're living through that, right? Yeah. So some of the views that people hold today on Israel that are critical, right? Were not radical ideas to have had 10 years ago, 15 years ago in the United States, right? They've become, you know, radicalized as kind of anti-Semitic. But
you
in a way
that issue in the film.
I mean, it's a question of language. You know, it's been conflated intentionally, I think, by the kind of the most extreme forms of, you know, right-wing thinking in Israel, who, you know, 30, 40, 50 years ago were considered absolutely off the map, radical,
absolutely, you know? Fringe, stuff.
Really fringe, but through, you know, the kind of tactics that you could say have worked in the United States, they've incrementally found their way into, you know, municipal politics and, you know, low-level politics, and then just accumulated these powers in the same way that, like, let's say the Koch brothers just kind of started buying up little districts here and there to just swing the vote enough, and now we're
over
in this
things
place
that have very little to do with most people. You know, like the absolute, like fringe-worthy arguments that don't have anything to do with everyday reality for people.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and but are very hot button, end up controlling the entire dialogue between everybody, instead of just like, actually, we're all mostly the same and have all the same interests, and we care about our children, and everyone wants to, you know, be happy and different, like all that stuff, which is all true. Like instead, we're gonna be like, oh, okay, let's talk about bathrooms.
Right, we've just been engineered by these algorithms to you know, conflict with each other, and that's, you know, I don't know what that is. That's capitalism at its worst. Whatever you know, whatever that is trying to, you know, monetize our emotion, and it's easier to monetize when it's anger than when it's you know, agreement or confusion or, you know, nuance or complexity.
You can sell more. You can sell more ads with anger than you can with
exactly.
And I think that's the problem with making movies that are complex, is people they you know, I was watching something on my feed, like it was a Netflix executive talking about why, you know, independent films just aren't working, and they were just saying, like, you know, people just aren't responding to them anymore. Like they just have to be, they just have to think of bolder things, like basically saying, like, do something crazy, you know, and people will pay attention. It's like, that's like, make more, you know, put some more Doritos in it.
Yeah, exactly. I do it on the street of this, so I think people will eat more of it.
This is great, because it actually leads into what I want to talk to you about. So Daniel and I have been sort of talking on the podcast quite a bit about the effect that we strongly believe that we're about to enter a new era of Hollywood, a new kind of Hollywood that's going on, and essentially our thesis is based on history, where the studio systems were collapsing in the 1960s because they thought they were going to make Doris Day musicals and John Wayne westerns forever. And people stopped going to the movies. And then suddenly some crazy guy went out with a crazy camera and created a movie like Easy Rider. And they're like, what the hell was that? Right. And that started the revolution of the entire 1970s filmmaking in America. Arguably one of the greatest times in
the American New Wave.
The American
New Wave, one of the great moments in film. Yeah.
I strongly believe that we are, since you came from the executive side as well, and you were part of that idea, and then you just created this film, which is unbelievably experimental. I strongly believe that we are in that same era now. And I want to hear your thoughts about like, where do you think filmmaking is, especially when the guy said like independent films aren't, like, I really believe independent films are going to have a huge comeback. And you're,
well, it was mostly especially about dramas. I think that's what he was talking mostly about dramas, of course, because you can still make a kind of radically inventive horror film for very little money and have a new director doing it, and they'd find their way up the chain into event films. But there's no middle class of interesting.
It's
dramas
totally devastated
anymore,
right now. Yeah,
right. I mean, I want to believe
make Paris,
that
Texas today.
I know you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. And the thing is that I want to believe that that's possible. I don't know how to make any other kind of film, so that's the reason I made this film. It wasn't. I wasn't trying to calculate like where's the market going. It's just this is who I am. And if I could make a huge tentpole film and be that kind of director, like who wouldn't? That would be a great career to have, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
But
it's not always that it's cut up to be. We've had Tim Miller on, and he talked about how he had a real hard time on Terminator.
Yeah,
of course. Make a Terminator movie, you change your mind.
I'm sure. I know, I have some friends who direct things that are, close to that scale, and it doesn't sound like it's fun, but it sounds like, there's a reason that they're doing it, and there's an outcome and a plan and a trajectory. I want to believe that films like this can get made, and the question that I still have that I haven't been able to answer is how do they get seen?
Yeah.
Right. Because of course they can get made, and I'll admit, I'm AI curious. I want to know. I want to know how it's going to go. I don't think it's all bad. I know there are environmental costs. I know the kind of idea behind the economics and all that stuff. And in terms of as a creator, I think it facilitates a lot of things that I could never do without a lot of money. And so I'm interested in how that will affect things. But the question becomes, how do we discern the stuff that's, bad and sloppy from the stuff that's really good, and who is going to do that for us, and how do we get people to pay attention? I mean, I've got, I don't know, 15, 20 different streaming services, right? I don't even have time. Most Friday nights, my wife and I spend more time looking at the things that we want to watch, and then it's like, well, it's 11 o'clock.
Through.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let's just go to sleep, because we just wasted. We just wasted our time looking at trailers, or watching the first few minutes of an episode. So how do you sift through that? That to me is the big question. There are so many great outlets, the Criterion and all these places, Kinema. Like, I love all of these places, but I don't have time. I don't, how often do I watch a feature film?
Yeah, because the algorithms do not do a very good job of curating the way that they advertise they should,
right?
Because I need to have things need to be winnowed down for me so I can go like, okay, if I pick any of these, I'm going to like them, as opposed to I can't do that on Netflix.
Right.
Like throwing a dart at the Netflix screen is like, that's a recipe for disaster. I have to get recommended.
That's just one of them.
It's just
exactly. That's just one of them, right? Yeah. So I don't. That's the question that I have. I don't know enough about how all of that works, and I don't. Right. There's a certain amount of bandwidth that I have, and it's so labor intensive to kind of conceive of a film and try to realize it and move it through the pipeline. I just don't even know how to think about that problem, right? I barely have the energy to think about it.
By the way, just for context, ironically, your average 1990s blockbuster had 3 times more movies in it than the entire Netflix library did.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. I feel like it's like I think that
so you somehow could walk through a blockbuster and pick out a movie, but you cannot. I mean, even when you cut that content down to a third, when you start talking about
scrolling through,
so they had more.
They had 3 times more. Your neighborhood blockbuster had 3 times more movies in it than.
I have
that was the experience that we had, is going to Blockbuster on a Friday night to take out a couple of videotapes for the weekend.
Yeah,
right.
Because I have the suspicion that it's part of the design, because Netflix doesn't care if you watch the movie. Like Netflix just cares that you subscribe to Netflix. That's it.
Right. Their only incentive is to prevent you from unsubscribing.
Do not cancel. That's it. That's
Right.
the only
Just
thing.
keep coming back. Right. So if you think
back.
that there's so much there that you'll never get to see it all, you have to keep coming
Right.
back.
I mean, the idea, because like I did this with my wife as well. We'll sit there and scroll for 2 hours and just sort of like make light fun of all the thumbnails we see, and that's a perfectly. And that's an average evening. And
like
to Netflix, they're fine with that. Exactly.
Right.
Like maybe some of those thumbnails don't even have movies attached to them. No one's ever going to click on them. But also, it serves the same purpose.
My attention span and our attention span, like it's a lot harder for me to commit to watching a movie than it used to be. Like I notice it. I've noticed the effect. So I can only imagine how that's happening for people who've never, I mean, the difference for us, for all of us who are in a relatively same age category, is we remember what it's like to have had an attention span.
Right.
Exactly. It was a nice thing. I really enjoyed
we didn't have anything else on our mind, right?
Right.
We
now,
and
now we don't, but we also have a generation of people who don't even remember, they don't have a memory of it. It's a memory that doesn't exist.
Right. Like in the morning, I get up and I put my phone like more than 10 feet away from me and force myself to read a book for just 10 minutes. That's it. Because I realized that like last year, I was like, I haven't read a book in 1 year.
Right.
And I was like, that's insanity.
I don't even allow myself to buy books anymore because I've got so many that I have not read that I'm like, you are forbidden. Until you can prove that you can read another book.
Until you finish.
I mean, I'm reading right now to do research for, maybe another script, but like I don't even buy books anymore. My wife is she'll read 4 books at a time and they're littered all over the house.
So
and she's like, I'll pick this one up and I'll put it down and then I'll pick this one up. And she'll get, she'll read, a few books a month, but I don't have that, capacity anymore. So I wonder what happens to asking my students to watch a movie as an assignment when the movie doesn't tell them, doesn't tell them how to feel, or, I used to teach a class on postmodern theory and I'd show a lot of films in there that were, Synecdoche, New York-ish.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like, I was met with hostility sometimes, what is this?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to think?
What am I supposed to think? I don't know. You tell me what you think.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, so now I show them in class,
right,
and therefore they're stuck. And I'm like, listen, this is part of your classwork. It's 2 hours of our class. So when I do show them things like Synecdoche, they're devastated because they paid attention. They can't go anywhere. I said, put your devices away. You don't need your computer to watch this film.
Right.
Right. And so it's almost like I make them do it, and they're like, okay, I have to go process this. I haven't felt something like this in a very long time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I worry about where do movies go because of that. So I think somebody will find a way to kind of recapture our imagination somehow, and that will lead to this.
I feel like, and Chris has heard me say this before, but I feel like because I have 4 kids and 3 of them are heavily into video games. I do a lot of work in video games as well. The youngest generations, we think of the way we grew up, we think of video games as like Mario jumping around, right?
Right.
But the games that they play now are these very, very lengthy, very dense, like Russian novel style, massive experiences.
Yeah.
And so
hundreds of hours of attention.
We're not talking about Zork.
You're not talking about Zork.
We're not talking about Zork, but we're also not talking about,
but
because Hollywood has dismissed that generation as a TikTok generation, and that is such a misconception. Because these people can pay attention for hundreds of hours on a single subject.
Right. And as Chris brought in the last episode we did, like the youngest generation is actually rediscovering movies themselves, like watching movies even in movie theaters. Like there's been an uptick in actual re-releases. But they're like, this is what I've been missing. Like this, I'm actually get to focus on a thing that gives me characters and emotions and everything that I get out of video games. It turns out they used to make movies that were as good as video games.
Right. Yeah. My wife and I went to see a film last night. We went to go see Hamnet, and I left my phone at home, and she looked at me and she was like, "You're not taking your phone?" I'm like, no, I don't want to take my phone. I don't want to even have the ability.
I'm in a Chloe Zhao movie. What do I need a phone for?
Like,
come on.
I don't want to take my phone. And she says, well, what if somebody needs to get in touch with us? I'm like, they'll get in touch with you.
Yeah.
The kids are okay. So it was almost astounding because I'm trying to actively re-engage with my attention, and it really requires you to say, like, I don't want this thing around me because I'm an addict and I can't even touch
100%.
Right?
Well, I think that you've done a great, when people think of experimental films, they think of what's the
Stan Brakhage.
Yeah, exactly. Stan Brakhage. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so like, that's what they think of. I think the most experimental thing you've done here is to make a film that invites people to think, and it's painless to experience it. Like, it draws you in, it's entertaining, everybody's really good, and before the end of the movie, you're like, wow, I'm thinking about things in ways that I had not thought about them before.
Yeah. How did I get here? I'm out on the ledge.
Yeah, like, and
one
that
inch
is
at
just
a time.
yeah, exactly. And that is not an experience that people get from movies these days. Like, the most cutting edge element of Yes, Repeat, No is that this has given me an experience that I haven't gotten out of a movie in quite some time. And it makes it a very rare and special thing to have experienced. And I really, really thank you for that. It's a great,
thank you for saying that.
bit
I mean,
of
that's what inspires us about. I mean, that's what inspired me even about like The Little Drummer Girl as a film, right? Because George Roy Hill, even like that's a mainstream film about espionage, right? Which by the end of it is, you're just kind of like, wow, Diane Keaton doesn't know who she is anymore.
Yes. Yeah, right.
And
Annie Hall doesn't know who she is anymore.
Yeah,
right.
Annie Hall doesn't
And you make that point in the film too.
That was so good.
Right. And he does it so well. And that was mainstream cinema in 1980.
That was
right?
exactly
that's the thing,
it's like,
right?
We've got a big star, big movie. Here
we
it
used
is.
to make good films that had like, and it was funny. I was trying to think about it because I haven't seen that film probably since the 80s, honestly speaking. And I loved it. But I do remember my dad, who was, very, very intellectual person. He used to love Jean Le Carré. So I remember as a kid,
I'm a giant Le Carré fan. Gigantic.
He was walking around one summer with Little Drummer Girl in his hand, right? Like the book, and I was fascinated by the title and he was kind of explaining to me what it was about, but I was, and then I saw the movie and I was totally into it, and that's a complicated film. But I do one scene I remember which was interesting, and there's some semblance of this in the original Little Drummer Girl film, semblance of this in it. She slept with two of the guys, right? She slept with an Israeli and she slept with a Palestinian, right?
Right.
And they mirror those scenes where they're after their after sex session where the Israeli is she's looking at all the scars on his body.
Right.
And she's going, oh, and this is when this battle happened, this battle happened, this battle. And so she's like, oh, the map of the Middle East and conflict are all over his body. And then you imagine that you go to the Palestinian and you would expect just as many scars, and he has a scar, but it's like, oh, this is when I fell off my bike,
Right.
Right. And it was like, wait, what? And it was sort of like, it's the unexpected, right? You don't expect this, you don't expect that, and you have a different conception of what an Israeli is and a Palestinian is, and and I think that's what's so. It's really, I mean, I know this is a difficult subject, and you tackled it in a way that was very special, not just as a subject, but as a filmmaker and as a storyteller. It's a very hard thing to do.
And now, what
you.
like where are you going now? What is the next thing you're?
It's hard to tell. I mean, I'm not prolific because it has to be.
I feel your pain.
So important when I decide to work on something. It's almost like I have no choice but to work on it, which is what it was like for this film. Is when I got the idea, it was literally like stepping in a pile of poop and being like, oh man,
here we go again.
And I told my wife, I said, I'm really sorry. I'm just going to be insufferable.
I came up with an idea.
I'm going to be an insufferable person for the next 2 years.
Was
because
it a 2-year
I have
process
to do this.
of this making?
Oh, it was much longer than that. I think it's, we're on year number 4 from its moment of inception, which was, because the way that this film came about is I was supposed to curate an exhibition of Israeli and Palestinian artists who were working on intergenerational trauma for my dissertation. And I was going to write about it, and I had some amazing artists lined up, like museum level people who eventually it just got to this kind of crossroads where they didn't want to be in the same room together. Palestinian artists didn't want to be tokenized by the Israeli curator. Israeli artists felt uncomfortable about being in that conversation, and so the show fell apart. the gallery director, who was my, dissertation advisor, said, listen, I don't care what you do. You got a gallery to fill, like make a movie. I don't know what to say. This was in March or April. And I said, listen, this is October. I'm not going to make a movie by October. But it was through kind of meditating on what could I do and learning about Giuliano. And as soon as I got it, 3 actors, the facets, I was like, oh man, I got to make this. It's got to be made. Yeah. So I'm in, that was the culmination of almost a decade of research, because I wasn't planning on making a film. I was just researching this field. So now, I know that I'm really still interested in this question of identity. I'm really still interested in this kind of blurring of boundaries. And I'm if you were to say, like, what are you working on next? I think what I'm researching that I want to work on next, if it materializes, is something about a kind of a psychedelic CIA thriller, kind of based on some of the stuff with MK Ultra, that's of rooted in a kind of based in a fascist democracy like we live in, and engaging on some level with the hybrid process between live action and AI, because I do believe that real actors are irreplaceable, and yet there are things that I can do with visual effects.
Oh, I completely agree. Absolutely.
And environments that I'd never be able to do on the kind of budget that I would get. So that's what I'm thinking about. Do I think it'll materialize? I don't know. I'm reading a lot of stuff on the history of espionage, and I love it. I love that world. Like we all do. It's like, it's a world that, like, you grew up thinking like, oh, spies are cool, and there's something about it that's very romantic. So I'm drawn to it, but I'm also drawn to the kind of identity dissimulation, the way that people play with their identity.
I mean, this is all very Le Carré as well. I mean, like all of his stuff is deep and like I think that I probably would have become a different person if I had not seen The Spy Who Came In From the Cold when I was like 12. And I was like, the world is different than I expected.
Yeah. I mean, it's troubling, right? And there are people who live like this. So that's what I'm interested in. I want to get to that moment where it's like, okay, I can't not make this, and I have to write this right now. I mean, the script, Yes, Repeat, No, the actual writing of the script, beginning to end, the first draft, I'd say that was 36 hours. It was just bursting from me. Like I had to just get it out. And it was like, it was so formed, and it drew on so much that I'd already done for 10 years that it was like, I had to sit down and write. I was like, leave me alone. Everybody leave me alone. I got to write. And that's not sustainable. I haven't professionalized this process, because that's, I'm working like a college student cramming for a final.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know any other way. So if it happens that I get so bursting at the seams that I sit down and say, like, I have to write, I have the idea, I have a kind of a rough outline of what the story would be. It's just now I have to really understand the world, which, is not a world that I totally get. It's a world I love to learn about.
Yeah.
Well, we do.
That sounds absolutely amazing, man.
And you should know that, like, Daniel and I worked in the visual effects world for many years. So we actually have a big background in this area, and a lot of the new tools that are out there, we can help advise you if you'd like to say, hey, how am I going to pull this off?
We love talking about this stuff.
Really, you can't be in visual effects and not have be running headlong into AI to try to understand how it works, because
we've been doing it for far longer than people realize.
Right. Yeah, we have.
We've been doing it for 10 years.
It's just that, and now it's just become like readily available. Like I look at my monthly whatever bank statement at all of the different apps that I'm subscribed to, like that I don't like, Runway and LTX and like all of them, because I'm trying all of them, because I just want to, because they're changing so quickly. Higgsfield and so I'm trying to figure out every one of them until somebody really begins to aggregate them in a way that's super useful and creates dashboards of things that I need as a filmmaker that I'm sure you know about. It's like, just let me choose whether it's a 33 or a 50 or an 85 millimeter lens, and let me choose the pace of the camera.
Do we have a tool for you
about this? Yes, absolutely. It's very interesting. Because we're filmmakers as well, and we apply this stuff all the time. And it's I feel that the thing that will change soon is, like, people will realize eventually how much AI stuff they're exposed to just in cinema. Like,
of course,
we've talked to many, many people in VFX who are worked on very big films. And they're like, yes, we're already using it. You've already seen it. We just can't tell anybody about it because they'll get so mad. And and once people realize that this is like the only way to make good work with AI is to be a good artist.
Right.
Like, you actually have to be good in order to do good work.
Someone has to make the right choices.
Human beings have been making slop without AI just fine for decades.
Yes,
so it's not like the AI is not the slop. It's the human beings are creating the slop. So I'm not worried about that. And and that's why I push back when people are like, this is I mean, strangely, it's my students that I have to talk into it, right?
Yes.
It's this generation now that are, 19 to 21. It's not like the Gen Alpha kids, the really young kids. I don't think they're going to have a problem.
No, they're totally, they totally get it.
But the older professionals, for the most part, like the smart ones are like, well, I want to figure this out. It's this middle generation that are like, they're ideologically purist about things that they don't completely understand on either side, the ideological purism or the AI stuff. So that's the weird bubble that I'm finding, is that they're the ones that have to be convinced. And I'm like, but aren't you creative? Don't you want to know what this tool is? It's a tool. It's not.
Well, I think that it is the Gen X kids, we had the privilege of living through a couple of major technological shifts, at least one gigantic one with the internet, but also just in terms of visual effects, like going from, it's night and day with Jurassic Park, right? That wrecked whole careers that you could do this now, and I always bring this up, but our friend Tom Saint-Armand was, he was an animator on Empire Strikes Back, did like the Hoth stuff and all that jazz, right? Wow. And when Jurassic Park came around, like all of his stop motion animation buddies were like, oh, we're screwed. This is the end. And Tom's like, I guess I'm just going to have to learn computers then.
Right.
And then Tom kept animating. Yeah. And, he's still got great work now, today. Yeah.
Right.
And you just, because the fact is, like, as an artist, like the art comes from you, not from the tool.
I believe that. Yeah.
You just have to adapt.
Going from the stone tablet to the pencil, it's like you didn't stop making things.
Yeah, exactly. That's not well. You can't call that writing. That's not from a chisel.
Right? It didn't ruin thought. It just accelerated the process. So, I mean, again, there's a whole host of problems, and people lose jobs, and I know that that's all a real part of it. I don't want to deny the concerns that people have because it's legitimate, but I do think that as a creative person, I'm excited about these things that I don't completely understand. And I know I'll be calling you because that's the part of it that I'm like, I know you can do this. Yeah, and I know there's a workflow, but I don't know the most precise one, right? That's efficient, because there's so many inefficiencies in it.
Well, and you already have, your skill set is already the correct one to solve these problems, because being a filmmaker is just about solving those problems,
right?
Like the guy didn't show up today. Well, we get a new guy. The light won't turn on. I guess we're gonna shoot this as a noir then.
It's literally the entirety of making films. It's what are the problems that we get to solve today? It's not like I hope there are no problems.
I hope there's no problems,
right? Because then you're just setting yourself up for
shitty movies,
Right. No, I agree, and I want people to embrace it in a way that will make it creative, but I also know that it means that not as many people will work, and not as I mean that's a reality.
It shifts
that is an efficiency that's built into it.
Well, we also have I don't want to, because I know a lot of visual effects people, but the fact that movies have to have 2,000 people working on them is a little bit outrageous to think about, right? Yeah. And so the fact that we can be more efficient at things is not necessarily a bad thing. And we did oversaturate the world with visual effects and computer graphics people, we did, and so, but that doesn't mean that computer graphics is going away. It doesn't mean that AI is going to go away. It doesn't mean that filmmaking is going to go away. It doesn't mean that storytelling is going to go away, right?
In fact, as these tools get evolve, like the people that want to work with them are forcing evolution upon them by saying, I need more control. Like you said, I want to see what this looks like with the 50. Right.
Just give it to me on a dashboard. Like, what are you making
exactly.
me write it out?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, so that in your large language model, so you understand. I mean, I've seen great, you know, there's great material out there on exactly how to be specific, you know, when in your prompting. But I still think, like, just give me some buttons. Like, there's not that many variations, right? There's not that many variations in camera movement, tracking speed, you know, direction. Like, they're starting to do that. You see them like finally figuring it out, because that's very easy. I want to press buttons and then see what it looks like, and then press buttons again. It's the kind of character continuity stuff that's still, you know, a little problematic.
There's stuff that has to be overcome.
This is coming. I'm just going to tell you, Michael, this is coming.
The nature of filmmaking, and I'm fairly sure you'll agree with this, is the nature of filmmaking is you do a lot of planning, you got a lot of tools, and you know how to use all this stuff, and that's all. And then everything goes wrong, and you have to figure it out anyway.
But I do think that when you, I mean, again, the thing about this, the process of making this film particularly, that was so enjoyable for me was setting up the conditions for the things to go wrong.
Yes.
And making the most out of the things going wrong.
Discover the beauty in the things that went crazy.
Like, let's film everything. Let's film the lights too. Let's not, like, what are we going to do? How are we going to shoot multiple cameras? Well, let's not worry if we're shooting other cameras. Well, you know, like, let's see everything, because
you see the crane in the reflection of the mirror.
Yeah, let's do all of it, because we have to shoot a movie in 10 days. Let's create an arena for the problems to be things we can capture and use, instead of let's hide them and frame them out and always be like, we're hearing sound in the, I mean, we found out why our stage was so cheap, because it wasn't soundproof. We only found that out on day 3. And we were like, that's why we got such a great rate. You know, like, they didn't tell us that, right? There was nothing about that. So I'm just saying, like, you know, what is the process of making a film? Like, what does that look like? I don't know that I ever want to shoot another film where I'm not shooting 4 cameras at the same time and not giving a shit about everything else, because that was so liberating to do these 25-minute takes where we just let the actors go and take it again, or just try to
discover it. Like, because I mean, in a sense, like, you're almost creating sort of an aspect of documentary is happening for you, even when you're shooting the fiction part.
Yeah, I thought it was so. It was. But that's the thing I think was so much more powerful about it. A lot of people have shot multiple angles and they'll figure it out later. But what you did is, not only did you do that, but you made that part of the story too.
Right. That they were talking about that as part of the story. That's what, in the kind of writing of it, became like, aha, like, I don't have to hide this. Again, you know, the thing that I always talk about, you know, with people when I'm talking about, like, educating young filmmakers is, you know, if all you have is the confusion, all you're negotiating is the confusion because you don't know how to say the thing that you're saying, why don't you say that you're confused about how to say the thing that you're saying, and why don't you make that the work, right? Instead of trying to pretend, right? Instead of constructing the, like, this is the final word on this.
Yes. I have the answer.
Right. Like, how about just saying, like, I don't know what the answer is, and this is my way of working through the fact that I don't know what the answer is. I think that's interesting. Those are interesting films. Those are interesting works of art. I think that's what makes it into something that's not, you know, Hollywood movies have become the final word on anything, and there's maybe 1 out of 1,000 filmmakers that get to entertain the nuances, but the rest of us, I think, you know, if you're making a movie for Netflix, you're serving an algorithm that needs to have a really specific outcome.
I think that some people are starting to realize that algorithms aren't working anymore.
No, and I think because I feel that people really miss having true emotional contact with what art is, and they may not know it, but when they feel it, it really gets them. Like, it's not like people are like, it's not like people no longer have the ability to feel things from art. It's just that we are put in a position to be afraid of the emotions that are inside of us. Like, when you put out challenging work and you're like, hey, everybody, let's go see something really frightening and challenging. Everyone's like, I live in a very, very hyper-stimulated, challenging, frightening place right now, and I'm not ready to do this.
I know.
But there is a way to, as you have done, there's a way to create stuff that doesn't just assuage their fears and make them feel numb. It engages them and makes them open to these emotions again and gives them space to feel it. I think people will go like, this is what I actually was missing. The thing that I was afraid of is what I was missing.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like you have to trick them into it in a weird way
Right.
And I think that, for me, bringing it back to your earlier comment, which I'm going to, probably repeat to 100 people, that Synecdoche, New York did that for me as a film, and it devastates me every time. And the first time I saw it, I was like, what just happened to me? Like, what is that?
Right.
Like, what the hell did
it's
Charlie
so
Kaufman
thrilling.
just do? Right.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm stunned. And he does it, comedy is a part of it, right? It's like, blood flowing through your pipes, like the little girl freaking out about like, blood is in my veins. Like, it's like pipes, like I have pipes in my veins, right? So it's like, it's that stuff that allows you to kind of comfort people's, frontal lobe while you kind of sneak into the back.
Sneak into the good stuff. Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, I really appreciate that.
Michael, thank you very, very much for all of this. I think that Chris and I are in unison in saying this is a really special experience for us. Everything you've got to say, we're looking forward to everything else you got to say after.
Yeah, can't wait to see what you're doing next. And so please definitely stay in touch with us because we'd love to be able to.
Absolutely. Trust me, I'm going to be leaning on you for advice. I'm not kidding.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Michael.
All right.